Rabbi Becher, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. If you open Tanakh, it's impossible to ignore that Eretz Yisrael, this land, is God's signature issue. And for the history of the Jewish people, we've been in exile, not by choice, until today. So why is it that Judaism needs to have a land? And furthermore, why does Mashiach have to come to this land? So maybe if you could expand on those two questions. Thank you.
Okay. These are very broad, but also very fundamental questions. What's the role of the land of Israel in Torah, in Judaism, in our lives? What's, so to speak, Hashem's idea, plan, desire for the land of Israel? These are important questions. And you are correct. It's very hard to, not very hard, it's impossible to go through Tanakh, the Torah, prophets' writings, and avoid Israel. It's not possible. Hashem's first words to Avraham, Lech Lecha, was to go to Israel. The first recorded, the greatest test that Avraham had was to offer his son Yitzchak as an offering on Har HaMoriah, land of Israel, the site of the future Beis Hamikdash, future temples. We know that that Yitzchak never left the land of Israel because he was called an Olah Tmima, a pure offering. His sanctity did not allow for him to leave the land of Israel. And it was with great reluctance, Yaakov and his sons went down to Egypt, famine and so on and so forth. Even in Egypt, the Jews, the tribes, Yaakov, Yosef, the tribes all asked to be buried in the land of Israel. Take us back to Israel. The Jews left Egypt with a hope, a belief that they'd one day come to the land of Israel. And then you're right, the whole history of the Jewish people until exile was revolving around our habitation of the land of Israel, our settlement of the land of Israel, conquest, exile, return, exile, and so on and so forth. And we are waiting for the redemption, for the Mashiach, where one of the key features, the Rambam has it as one of the ways in which we can identify that the Mashiach was successful, is that there is kibbutz goliath. There is a return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. So it does prompt us to ask, why is Judaism, Torah, so focused on a land? I mean, you can think there are many religions, lahavdil, out there, and vast majority of them, ones that I know of, are not specifically associated with one piece of land. You know, Catholics, they consider Israel holy because their founder lived there, possibly. They consider pilgrimage to be a wonderful thing. The Vatican is the home of the Pope. But, you know, one could be a good Catholic without visiting either place, live anywhere in the world. Islam has an obligation of Hajj to make pilgrimage to Mecca once in your lifetime. No obligation to live in Saudi Arabia. In fact, I can't imagine Saudi Arabia wants all of Pakistan and Indonesia to come there. It's highly unlikely. So no obligation, no specific attachment to that land. Why is it that we have that attachment? Think about it. There are great people, righteous Jews, individuals, Torah scholars, women of piety, and so on, who have lived outside of Israel and have lived what we would consider to be amazingly complete lives. But they were not complete. According to the Torah, they were not complete lives. As far as we can see, they were not able to fulfill the mitzvot, the commandments of the land of Israel. They did not have that sanctity of the land of Israel in their lives. And out of the 613 mitzvahs that we are obligated in, according to the Torah, Sefer HaChinuch in his introduction makes a calculation that because we are in exile, the majority of Jews not in Israel, we don't have the full infrastructure of halacha in the land of Israel. Out of the 613 commandments, we're only obligated in 270. He says that's hinted at in a beautiful hint in the Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim, where it says, Ani Yeshena v'libi er, the Jewish people say, we are asleep. I am asleep. I'm in a coma. V'libi, but my heart, er, is awake. It's beating. The word er, beating, awake, ayin reish, has a numerical value of 270. So to speak, the Jewish people are like, and when we're out of Israel, we're a nation in a coma. You check our pulse, it's 270. It's probably not good, but for the Jewish people, that's a good pulse. 270 are the mitzvot that we still do. So we see from this clearly that Israel is central. Central. So what is it? Why? So a few points that need to be made, and each one really requires an entire hour seminar. Who knows? One point made by Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch and Rabbi Yehuda Halevi earlier in the Kuzari. Start with Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi says the Torah is about building a society of Torah, building an entire world, mini world based on Torah. The only way that can be accomplished is ultimately in our own land, with our own government, with our own independence, because then we can build a country where the agriculture is going according to the rhythm of the Shemitah cycle, Truma and Maser and all of the sabbatical year, all of the laws of agriculture, where the justice system is the Holy Sanhedrin, the Jewish Supreme Court, the Batei Din, and so on and so forth. Where there's a monarchy based on the laws of the Torah regarding a monarch, he has a Sefer Torah with him, and so on and so forth. He says all of that is a way to build a society based on Torah. So you cannot do that. You could live a good Jewish life in Borough Park or Williamsburg or Golders Green, but you're not building a Torah society there. You're living in the society around you with various degrees of interaction. And at the end of the day, though, you're not building your country or society. So Israel, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi would put it, one aspect of that is that it's the opportunity to fulfill our task, which is building an entire life, individual, communal, social, political, military, industrial, all based on the Torah. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch says a very similar idea much later, in which he asks why Hashem divided the Jews into 12 tribes. I mean, it's not like, we're argumentative enough without us actually having to be divided into 12 different groups. So Rabbi Hirsch says the idea is that Hashem wants the world as a whole, the non-Jewish world, to be educated by the Jews, and he wants the Jewish people to be an example to the world that you can be of any character type, any talent, trade, profession, and still be a devoted servant of God. He says, so if all the Jews were just one type, that wouldn't indicate that. If all the Jews were in a yeshiva, that wouldn't help the rest of the world. They wouldn't see that you can be a plumber, an accountant, a physicist, a soldier, a storekeeper, an architect, and still be a devoted servant of Hashem. They wouldn't see that. So Hashem made the Jewish people as a diverse people, with every tribe, every one of the Shvatim, with different talents, different character traits, different professions, and yet all of them could be united in a common cause of serving Hashem, and that's an amazing lesson. So that's an important point to make as well. The Shem Yishmuel says a similar idea. He says that the spies, when the Jews sent, not the Mossad, way before, but the first Mossad, when the Jews in the desert down there, when they sent spies to Israel, and the spies came back with negative reports, and it was clear they didn't want to go to Israel. And there were many Jews who apparently in the desert did not want to go to Israel. And the Shemish Shmuel, the great Hasidic master, Rebbe of Sokachov, he says, why don't, because he says in the desert, they were living in this perfect bubble. They had the clouds of glory surrounding them, climate control. They had no agriculture to worry about because the man's falling from heaven. They didn't have to worry about plumbing because the water's coming out of the stone of Miriam and so on. They didn't have to work. They were just studying Torah. It was paradise. But he said, and they wanted to stay there. They knew that when they go to Israel, they'd have to get their hands dirty. They have to do agriculture, and they'd have to create an army and a government and all the stuff that goes with living a normal life. And they were reluctant to do that because they were living in this bubble. Shemish Shmuel says Hashem did not want the Jews to live in a bubble. He wants us to live in the real world, get our hands dirty, both figuratively and literally, and within that, to bring Kedusha, holiness, to life and to the world. That's our goal. To do that, you need a land. You need a country. You need independence. So that's the Reb Yehuda Levi, Rav Hirsch, Shemish Shmuel. That's one aspect of the land of Israel, and a very important aspect, not the only aspect. Reb Yehuda Levi also points out, as do others, that Hashem did not make all creatures equal, all places equal, or all times equal. There are times where we know that Hashem fills all of, as the Zohar says, Mamale kol almin, makiv kol almin. He permeates all of space, all of the worlds, and he surrounds all the worlds. If so, what do we mean when we talk about the Shekhinah, the divine presence? I mean, the divine presence is everywhere. It's explicit in the words of the great Jewish philosopher Uncle Moshe. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere, up, down, down. We all know that, right? Who would have the chutzpah to argue with Uncle Moshe? Right? So what do we mean when we talk about divine presence, the Shekhinah? So Ibn Ezra and others point out that what is meant by Shekhinah is that there are places and times when you can perceive Hashem's presence more than other places and times. Hashem's presence permeates everywhere. True. And all times, true. But Yom Kippur in the afternoon at Ne'ilah, as the sun's setting, I can feel Hashem's presence more than I can Monday morning as I'm pressing the alarm to shut off, right? And there are also places where we can perceive Hashem's presence more than other places. Israel. And within Israel, the city of Yerushalayim. And within Yerushalayim, the Har Habayis, Temple Mount. And the Temple Mount. Now, each of those places, of course, Hashem's everywhere. But I can feel Hashem's presence more in certain places. So Israel is a place of revelation of Hashem's presence. Now, you would ask, why don't, as the Reb Yehuda Levi asks, why does Hashem make it all the world like that? He says, well, why don't you ask, why doesn't Hashem make all creatures intelligent with free will? Why only humans? And of the humans, why does Hashem only make the Jews with the Torah, giving us the Torah and our commandments? So he says Hashem's plan is that he wants the whole world to reach a certain level of spirituality and of morality. And in order to do that, he has places, times, opportunities, and a people whose job it is to raise the world to those levels by themselves having an even higher level and a deeper level of divine revelation. And that is Hashem's plan. So the land of Israel is this like window. It's a place where, and the truth is, that window is open not just to Jews. We know, the Gemara tells us that everyone, any person, not just Jew, but non-Jews, can offer offerings, a korban, in the temple in Jerusalem. We are told, Ki beisi beis tefillah yikarei l'chol ha'amim. My house is a house of prayer for all peoples. When Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, built the first temple in Yerushalayim, his speech in the book of Kings 1:8, his speech talks about the purpose of the Beis Hamikdash, and in the speech he mentions that it's for the non-Jews when they turn to it, when they come here, when they pray here. Their prayers should be accepted. So you need people. Most people cannot live in a situation of incredible intensity all the time. We'll just burn up. You need places, you need times, you need moments of inspiration. The land of Israel is that. Because of that, as Rabbi Yehuda Halevi says, and obviously I'm heavily quoting him because the Kuzari is one of the great sources regarding the land of Israel and its special nature. He says, because of that, prophecy was always only associated with the land of Israel. Either the prophets prophesied in Israel, started in Israel and continued when they left, or exclusively prophesied about Israel. Israel is the land of prophecy. And we look through a history, even after prophecy ended. So at the beginning of the Second Temple era, 2,500 years ago, when we became a non-profit organization. So we had, after that, still there was tremendous levels of inspiration, divine inspiration in the land of Israel. There are the Siddur was written by the men of the Great Assembly, granted, albeit there were a number of prophets still amongst them. That was the last vestiges of prophecy that was written in the land of Israel. The oral Torah, the Torah Shebaal Peh, the Mishnah, written in the land of Israel in the north. The Zohar, we just celebrated Lag BaOmer, Zohar, written in the land of Israel. Right? Some of our greatest works of Kabbalah, the Code of Jewish Law, the Shulchan Aruch also, all written in the land of Israel. It's a place where it's clear that there's inspiration there. It's like, some put it, I once heard from my Rebbe Shlomo Fisher, Olav Shalom, that it's like a spiritual magnifying glass. It magnifies and intensifies spirituality. That's why it's very difficult to have casual conversations about anything of substance in Israel. Because nothing's casual. Everyone's like very intense about it. But that's part of the greatness of Israel, is this intensifying image, like an image intensifier. The third idea I just wanted to mention is the geographical location of Israel. If you look at old maps from 1300s, 1200s, it's old maps. They always you have Israel in the middle, and there's this this football shape of Europe on one side and of Africa underneath, and Asia. Israel's in the middle, and America's tucked away in the corner. Australia doesn't exist on these maps, etc. But those are not completely inaccurate. In other words, Israel is at the crossroads of the trade routes from Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Europe, etc. And it was a place where nations, empires throughout history have battled over to take control of it. As recently as the British and the Ottoman Empire, and before then the various, like the Mamluks and the Mongols, and you had the Crusaders and the Muslims and the Persia and Greece and Rome and Greece, etc. Babylon. It was like this, and the fact that Israel is located where it's located is very significant, because we know a pasuk says, "Ki mitzion teitzei Sora udvar Hashem Yerushalayim." From Zion shall come forth the Torah and the word of Hashem from Jerusalem. The context of that pasuk, the context of that verse, is Torah coming forth to the non-Jews. V'naharu elav kol hagoyim. The non-Jews will stream to Jerusalem and they'll hear Torah. That's a messianic prediction. But the idea, what has happened is a lot of our Torah has been tasted, distributed, stolen, plagiarized, etc., by many peoples who've got a little bits of it when they conquered Israel and they went through Israel. And that's an important part of the purpose of Israel, is to be a place that will be a beacon of light, a place that will be there to teach the whole world Torah, morality, and so on and so forth. And some say, I think Rav Soloveitchik says, one of the reasons that there is so much focus on the land of Israel by the world media, by politicians, by governments, I mean, to the exclusion of countries that have huge populations. There are countries where single cities have 10 times the amount of Jews there are, or sorry, 3 or 4 times the amount of people there are in the whole land of Israel, and yet they're completely ignored by the media, completely ignored by the world, completely. Why are they focused on Israel? And I think he said because they're supposed to be focused on Israel. They're supposed to be learning things from Israel. They're supposed to be learning things from the Jewish people. They're supposed to be learning things from the land, right? And to that, in that sense, Israel also is supposed to be a central focus of the world for it to learn how to be a good human being, how to live, and that's maybe why so many people are focused on the land of Israel, on the state of Israel, and on the Jews in Israel, because the truth is they're meant to be focused on it, not in the way they're focused. Right? They're focused for criticism and hatred, but to be focused for learning and inspiration, that's where the focus should be, and that's also another reason we have a land. Again, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi points out that he says people will draw inspiration sometimes from a poor, suffering exile or a pauper who's nevertheless, despite being destitute, he's nevertheless moral. But he says it's going to have a much greater impact to have someone who is successful in every area and still moral, successful in every area and still serves Hashem with humility and with devotion. That's going to have a greater impact. So Hashem wants us to be successful. He wants us to have power. He wants us to have wealth, because those are vehicles where people will look at us and derive lessons. Avraham Avinu. Avraham was given military success, political success, financial success, and the reason he was given those was not to rule people. It was not to be a dictator. No, it was so that people would look at him, admire him, and hopefully learn from him, which they did.
What is Mashiach? Is Mashiach just a way of us focusing on Eretz Yisrael? Meaning, are these things two separate ideas? Is there something about Eretz Yisrael which has nothing to do with end times, or is it just one connected thing?
You see, the distance of the human being from God is such that we could spend our entire lifetime and the lifetime of every human who's ever lived, and we'd still be only approaching, not there. Like an asymptote, where the curve approaches the y-axis but never quite hits it. So right now, as the Rambam puts it, I'm basing this on the Rambam primarily, as the Rambam puts it, we spend a lot of energy battling poverty, disease, anti-Semitism, discord, and so on and so forth. So the amount of energy we have left to get closer to God, to have a relationship with him, is a lot less than it should be. The hope, the promise of the times of the Mashiach is that the impediments will be removed. We won't have to be battling anti-Semites. We won't have to be fighting Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Islamic Jihad, etc., etc. We won't have to battle disease and poverty. Will there still be poor people? Yes, but we'll be in a position that we can help everyone. Right. The times of the Mashiach is that we'll have our ideal life where we can pursue those goals. And the ideal place to pursue those goals is the land of Israel, because of its spiritual qualities and its history and so on and so forth. And therefore, they are linked. They are linked. But I would say that the purpose of both the land of Israel and the Mashiach are both means to an end. They're the means. The end goal is to have a relationship with God, with the Creator, with Hashem. The means to that is the land of Israel, true even nowadays. And another means to that is the Mashiach. Our goal in this world is not bring Mashiach. No, bring Mashiach in order to do what? In order to be great humans, Ovdei Hashem, servants of God, relationship with God, and the messianic times when we have the Mashiach, that will be the time that we can do that all. And the place that we can do it all is the land of Israel. That's the goal. So I would say, yes, they are somewhat interwoven. They're not exactly the same, but I think they're very similar. But they're interwoven in that sense. They're both the mechanisms by which we will achieve our goals.
Okay. Now, I watched recently your podcast, Two Rabbis and a Podcast.
Yes, with Rabbi Karsh.
Yes, excellent. And you mentioned there the Ramban about Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, and I wanted to just focus on one aspect of the Ramban you mentioned, which was that there's, aside from, I think moving to Eretz Yisrael or owning a house, there's a mitzvah of developing Eretz Yisrael, and that's something that is a biblical commandment, and it's something that anybody, regardless of where you are, if you can't move, but you could promote it, there are things that you can do. I remember my father told me when he was a kid, he lived in California, and they had a program. You give $1 and you're planting a tree in Israel. So I wanted to know if you could tell us or the audience some practical things that they could do to do this mitzvah, because this is a serious thing. It's no different than an esrog or a lulav, or it's a real mitzvah of building up Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, so Nachmanides, so people don't get confused, Ramban. Yeah, Ramban, Nachmanides, he actually says there's 3 components to this mitzvah, which applies even today. Number 1 is living there. Number 2, not leaving it in the hands of foreigners. And number 3, as you correctly pointed out, what we call Yishuv Haaretz, which is to make the land of Israel a more habitable place. So if I involve myself in agriculture, that's great. If I build roads, amazing. If I build a falafel store, also good, right? All part of it. So I would say if a person doesn't, here I am talking about all this, and I'm living in Passaic, New Jersey.
But you've probably sent more people to Eretz Yisrael than anybody I know.
I did live in Israel for quite a while, and my Rebbe, Ramosha Shapiro, said I should move to America. So I did, right? I plan on coming back. But in any case, yes, someone who lives in Chutz La'aretz, as is the case for me and many people, I don't know who's watching this, but we can be involved, invest in Israel. If you buy a house in Israel, you invest in real estate in Israel, you are contributing to the building of the land of Israel. Everything we do in Israel. The Chassam Sofer, in a very beautiful piece on his commentary on Sukkah, Lamed Vav, Chassam Sofer actually writes that everything we do in Israel, he says, not just agriculture, he says all of that is part of this incredible mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. He says, Lohoitzi Peiroi Seah HaKadoshim, to bring out its holy fruits. I think buying Israeli products, the blessed fruits of the land of Israel, which I know we see here in Costco in New Jersey, right? Whether it's the cherry tomatoes or et cetera, Bisli, Bamba, etc., part of some of the blessed fruits, right? But I think that's certainly a part of it. I think that's helping the agricultural component of the land of Israel. And there are many good causes in Israel. There's I get a message from some group who's trying to raise the Jewish population in the Galil. The Galil is being overrun by Arabs, and it's in danger. So helping people settle in the Galil, helping people in the Negev, helping people settle in places in Israel where there's a dearth of Jews. So I think those are all important parts of it. Each person according to what they can afford and what they can do. But I think all of that is, when people sometimes go to Israel and they volunteer and they help out, and that's also great, whatever we can do there.
So first of all, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm so honored that you came on. This hopefully will be one of many, many talks we do for Dabrut. This will be on their channel. And I will leave a link to your channel, to the channel that I watched.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
So that people will be able to also see the continuation of this conversation, because I caught you, I think, in episode 100 or 80. I don't remember what number it was, 1,000. I don't know. So you look it up. Maybe you could lead us out with a bracha to the tzibur. Thank you.
I mean, okay. I mean, I'm qualified as a hedjot, so I guess I can give a bracha that people should feel closeness to Hashem. People should have success physically and spiritually, and use that to create a kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of the name of Hashem.
Rabbi Becher, thank you for joining us from just outside Jerusalem. Shalom.